All right, guys, welcome in to our College Recruitment 101 webinar. Probably expecting us to talk for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much we like the sound of our voice. We'll definitely be allowing some time for questions as well at the end, and just giving you guys some rundown on the course that we have coming up that will provide just further details on for you. But the main focus for us in this is just to give a very 10,000 foot overview of the recruitment process. We've gone through it a number of years now and have been lucky enough to see a number of guys succeed in finding a place to go and play at the next level. But we also know that there's a ton of different ways that you can participate in college volleyball after. It doesn't just need to be Division One. There's so many opportunities from D1, D2, specifically Division Three. There's been a huge amount of growth, and then of course NAI and collegiate club. We have a lot of good insight and a lot of alumni who have the time of their lives playing collegiate club, and so we'll kind of speak a little bit to that as well. And then, as I said, we'll open it up for questions at the end. This is being recorded as well, so we will share this out with the club afterwards to hopefully answer some of the questions that people who aren't on this call likely have a lot of the same questions that you guys have. And we'll start from the top. So the first thing is we basically break it down into a 5-step process. And so I'm just going to share something for you guys real quick so you can kind of see. This is basically what the syllabus is. This is last year's college recruitment syllabus. So apologies that it is a little bit out of date, specifically with that NCAA dead period in recruiting. But the main principles remain the same. And the first one that you'll see is just going to be that counsel. You can kind of see into that 5-point blueprint. Counsel, mainly talking about the people that are going to be in your corner, right? So I'm speaking directly to the athletes that are on this call, the people who are going to support you in your recruitment process, you and your being the keywords, right? Mom and dad aren't going to get you recruited to go play volleyball. That's not how it works in men's volleyball. The college coaches aren't going to be the ones that are going to come to you unless you are a top 5% athlete in a class. Men's volleyball is a sport where your kids are recruiting themselves to go play. And so a lot of that is covered in this kind of talk. And sometimes that can be very confusing of like, how do I get this started? And we've had a number of conversations with families, with players, with parents, where they just say, I don't know how this works. And I don't know the way this goes. It goes differently for every person because college recruiting is just relationships. And relationships are different with everyone, as you guys are all very well aware of. So in speaking with counsel, I think the obvious first piece is your parents, is having conversations with your parents about expectations for college, expectations about finances. Obviously, is going to be a big piece of understanding what schools are going to fit into where you can go. Right? Are mom and dad helping you pay for college? Are you taking out college loans? Are you looking for a state school? Are you okay with a private school? All of those factors are going to come into play. And of course, you're going to want to have an open conversation with mom and dad about those things. Other people who can be forms of counsel are going to be your coaches, club coaches, high school coaches, people who can be spokespeople for you, for college coaches who will sometimes ask for references or ask to follow up with a coach and just kind of get their perspective. We as club directors have a lot of conversations like that, where if there's a college coach that's looking at a specific player, they know they're in Beta Bay, they'll reach out and say, hey, give me the lowdown on Johnny. Let me know what's Johnny's family like, what kind of kid is he, making sure that those people that their coaches are going to be reaching out to are in your corner and understand that you want to go through the college recruitment process, is a very, very good thing to do. Other pieces can be your high school guidance counselors, teachers who write letters of recommendations for your applications. They can be friends. They could be people who've gone through this before. We like to try and set up conversations with our alums who have gone through the recruitment process. Specifically, if there's a school that kids are interested in and we have an alumni at, it's always great to connect them. Anytime someone for the past 4 years was interested in UC Irvine, we were giving them Joel Steinmiller's number. Anyone who's interested in Loyola Chicago, we're forwarding to Colton Brooks. Anyone who, so on and so forth. We just have that list of alumni where it's a great thing to tap into, to get a better perspective of the school, to get a better perspective of how to approach conversations with the coaches, and get a lot of information. So that counsel and understanding who to kind of put around you in this college recruitment process is kind of a foundational piece. That's why we put it first, because those are the people that you're going to draw on throughout all of this. If you're, truly interested in going down the path of college recruiting, which does take time and effort, you're going to want support. You don't want it to be all on your own. You want to have backup and guidance from people who may not have gone through per se the men's college volleyball recruitment process. Probably mom and dad, very few went through that exact process. But they have a lot of life experience that is going to be transferable to the relationships that come along with it. Anything else for counsel?
Counsel for the recruiting process that, I've dealt with pretty closely each of the kids that have gotten recruited through Beta Bay Volleyball Club. And with the counsel, we've gone through it different ways. Sometimes mom and dad are heavily involved. Sometimes mom and dad are not that involved. It depends on what the kid wants. If the athlete wants mom and dad to be there the whole time, then no problem. If the athlete wants to do it on their own, great. That the majority of this comes from the athlete. Mom and dad being there for counsel is a great thing, but for us, nobody is getting recruited if mom and dad want them to be and the athlete do not want to be. That's a huge part of this, where I have a lot of parents ask me, what should I be doing as a parent to make sure that this happens? And my easiest answer for that is supporting them to come and talk with us, supporting them to come and talk with their volleyball counsel through volleyball recruiting, and trying to get them to have those conversations. There's only so much that you can do if they don't want to have those conversations. The only bad thing that can really happen here is if they go try and get recruited and they don't want to be there. And that the point is for us to try and help these kids to try and find the place where they fit into the best for their college experience, because they're going to be the ones that have to compete every day on the volleyball court.
Yep.
2 cents in counsel.
Perfect. The next step in this blueprint is going to be timing. And so this is an important piece for guys to understand with where they're at in the recruitment process. And the very basic rundown of it is men's volleyball is not like women's volleyball. It's not like men's basketball or football, where it is a absolute dog eat dog world going after 8th graders and trying to get them to verbally commit. Men's volleyball is much more along the stereotypical path of, junior years when, top guys are kind of making those decisions about which school they're going to be going to. And then a lot of guys, it's early senior year that they're figuring out which schools. And very standard to what a normal college admissions process would be if you were just trying to apply to the school, because the majority of men's college volleyball players are walk-ons, recruited walk-ons probably, but the majority of them are going to be guys that aren't receiving scholarship money, because men's volleyball gets 4.5 scholarships. There are schools that you can divvy up those scholarships and give, every player a small slice of the scholarship pie. But for the most part, it's going to be a lot of guys paying their own way, getting into the school on their own, not getting what we would call a chip on their application that puts them at the front of the line. And so that's a big piece of it. So for the timing wise, if we've only sent this out for our freshman guys and above, and freshman year is an early time. We want you guys to hear it. So if you're a freshman in high school and you're on this call, awesome. This is just a good thing for you to be hearing about and understanding kind of what the process is going to look like as you're moving forward. And a lot of what the recruitment process is again, going back to that idea of relationships, is going to be your communication. So a lot of identifying schools that you want to pursue, and then trying to communicate with those coaches using email, using recruitment videos, so making highlight videos or full match videos as well. So for our freshmen, what we usually try and recommend is to be aware of the recruitment process, to be aware of the schools that are out there that they're, can start to target, and then essentially do one email out to colleges at the end of their freshman year season with a highlight video and maybe their best match from the national championship tournament, just to get on the radar of these coaches. Coaches are definitely looking at 15s, but just knowing the maturity of boys and how different it is for each guy when they hit puberty, and all of a sudden the 5'4" freshman is now a 6'2" sophomore, and then he's a 6'6" junior, and he's a 6'8" senior. Right, that's just what happens with young men. Is everyone grows at a different pace, and so that's a big piece of it. So usually about one contact for freshmen would be a great step, just kind of to get the initial ball rolling. As you move into sophomore year, we're getting a little bit more into, okay, coaches are definitely taking a look. They want to see who's coming up. 16s is usually a year where guys make a leap, and you kind of see their size and their stature as they start to develop, and get a little bit clearer picture of what their ceiling could look like or how they could translate into the college game. And so what we usually recommend for our sophomores is to be following up before major tournaments. So the big travel tournaments, like when we attend the SoCal Cup in December, the Chicago tournament in January. Some of our older teams, 17s and 18-1s, are going to Milwaukee this weekend, which is a big recruiting tournament. Those are the events when you're leading into those tournaments. You want to be sending a message out to college coaches, letting them know, again, communicating where you're going to be. And then you can follow up after those tournaments. Usually what we are going to be recommending is following up with a video. So just in case the coach wasn't able to see you, or wants to get a better look, they've got your video and they've got your information. And, even more important is you're showing them that you're taking initiative, and that you are serious and you're interested in their school, right? You're taking the time to draft them an email, and you're taking the time to send your information along. Of course, you're not mailing letters. This isn't the 1930s. This is a little bit more advanced. It's not that hard to send an email, but it does take some work and it does take some effort to put something personal in. And so that's a big piece for the sophomores, is hitting those big bid tournaments, those big travel tournaments where college coaches will be at a lot. Then we get into junior year, and junior year is kind of the hot and heavy. A lot going on in terms of recruitment, because this is the time where schools are starting to truly figure out their allotment. Which position are they going to be taking in this class? Are they graduating 2 outside hitters and they need to try and find 2 guys to fill those spots coming up? Are they looking for a setter? Are they looking for a libero? Are they just trying to find the best available volleyball player? All those things are going to be dependent on each school. And those things start to really shake out as they're looking at their junior year class of high schoolers of who's going to be coming in the next 2 seasons. And so that's a big piece where, again, you're going to follow that same pattern of following up before the big tournaments. The thing we add on in junior year is we like to follow up after your regional tournaments as well. Again, using film as your friend. It's just a good way to kind of hit the next peg in a timeline. Is okay. Our regional tournaments are every 3 to 4 weeks. That's a pretty good cadence of communicating to a college coach. You're not overwhelming. You're not contacting every 24 hours. You're not being crazy like that. It's just, hey, here's how my team did at this weekend's tournament. Here's a highlight video, or here's a match video of our best match from this weekend. Let me know if you have any questions. In those conversations, you can keep them updated on anything grades wise. If you're looking at high academic schools, they're going to want to see transcripts. They're going to want to see progress of kind of your AP, are your AP classes going well, test scores, all those things coming back, SATs, ACTs. So you can kind of use those emails that you're posting or sending after a tournament to also include that information and kind of just keep that contact going. That's a good thing there. The junior year is also the year where, if you're at kind of that top tier for Division I schools, where official visits will be taking place as well. So you get up to 5 official visits to go. That's where a school actually pays to bring you. They'll either fly you there, drive you there. You'll stay the night. During non-COVID time, you'd stay in the dorms with actual players on the team. Right now, most schools, you stay in a hotel and then go to practice and get to hang out with the team and do all that good stuff. And so it's a good experience to be able to go and see. You don't have to wait for official visits to go visit a school though. And you don't have to wait till junior year to go visit a school. You can go see a school at any time, right? You may not be able to talk to the coach until you're in your junior year. That's just the recruiting rules. So once you're a junior, you can reach out to a school and say, hey, I'm coming down to the SoCal Cup tournament and on December, whatever the date is. I'm going to be there on Thursday. I was going to be doing some college tours. If you or any of your staff are available, I'd love the opportunity to meet with you and chat with you. And you can do it that way. Again, just showing the next step of initiative in order to get your name out there and to kind of continue to build a relationship with the college programs that you are interested in. And then finally, senior year, this is usually going to be the time where guys are making their decisions, right? You've got your normal regular admission, you've got your early admits that are taking place. Our guys that are going to Stanford and UCLA, they just committed and signed their letters of commitment just about a week ago. So that's where everything really gets locked in. You can't formally be signed to a school until that early signing period, which was November, I think 10th, that you can actually sign the contract that says I'm going to the school. And so that's the very generic rundown of kind of what the timing looks like. And timing is really just about how we communicate and how often we communicate with college coaches to make sure we're doing our job to keep building that relationship and moving to the next step of the recruitment funnel.
For me on timing, there is no normal timing of any of this. That there is a broad spectrum of the dates that things start to kind of happen. But if you talk to any person who has been recruited to go and play college volleyball, every single kid has a different story. And every single person has a different experience through the recruiting process. So doing a conversation like this for us, yes, there is generic information for you guys. Each recruiting process is pretty special. And so we like to tell people at the beginning that not to get too phased by the ups and downs of the recruiting process, because it is quite a process. When Matt committed to playing volleyball when he was in college, he didn't commit until May of his senior year, correct?
Correct.
He was planning on going to one school. And then at the end, the summer of his senior year, Pacific came into the picture and said, we want you to come and play for us. He took a visit and said, that's it, I'm going here. And so these things can change at any time in the recruiting process, and there is no normal with it. So if the college volleyball is something that is in the grasp of one of your athletes or you who are watching this, buckle up and ride the waves of what happens, because it happens different for everybody, and there are normal things and there are not normal things. And all it takes really with this is one coach saying that you're good enough. It doesn't mean that we say you're good enough. It doesn't mean we've already said you're good enough. You're playing for our club. So you're good enough for this right here. The question is somebody going to take a shot on you to say, okay, I want you to be on my team? And it only takes one person. So many people are caught up with how many people are looking at one specific individual player. And it doesn't matter how many people are looking at them, because it just takes one person to think that you're special for you to go and make an impact in that program. So that kind of takes the pressure off of it, is that you really just need to make one personal connection and impress one person. And this could, in college volleyball, could be something that is in the cards for you.
The last little thing I'd put on timing, just because, I'm looking at names on this call and it's great to see guys on premier teams, guys on club teams. There have been a number of guys who have played for us, have played on one's teams and have gone and played in college, who have played on two's teams and have played on three's teams at any point in their career that have gone on to play. And so I know sometimes timing wise, guys immediately will be like, I'm not on the one's team, right? And when you play for a club where your premier team is better than most one's team, you have to understand college coaches don't care about the name of the team. What they care about is the athlete and what you're going to do for contributing to a college program. That's the biggest thing. The best success story, I think, in most successful Beta Bay alum in terms of college success is a guy named Colin Maring, who I played with who was on our twos team, never played with me on our ones team. He was called the baby face killer because he was literally this baby faced giraffe. And he was taken by, the UC Irvine coach took a flyer on him, and brought him in, said, yeah, he's got some size. We'll give him a chance. And he ended up being a 2-time All-American and a back-to-back national champion who was an absolute beast by the end of his career because he worked so hard, and was able to just continue to show an upward trend. And so it's just a ton of evidence of, where you're at right now is not indicative of where you're going to be. And that's what college coaches are looking at. And that's the difference between, club and college. Is club, there's the aspect of, yeah, we want to try and be the best team we can be right now, but we're also trying to grow and develop. For college is purely looking at how are you going to contribute for my program in 2 years, right? For those juniors. And so really understanding that aspect, and not being afraid to reach out, or not being afraid, because you're not on the ones team or whatever it may be, I think is a big piece of your timing as well. Is if you have the faith in yourself and you have the belief in yourself that this is something you want to do, you can absolutely go make it happen, and do that as long as you stay motivated and put that work and that time in. Because the amount of schools that are out there, there's enough room for guys who are playing at the top level in our club to find a place to play college volleyball. If you're willing to go outside of California, your chances become a lot better. If you're not willing to go outside California, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But that's for another topic, which segues us into the school list, which is where I will let Arielle take the lead here.
Okay, so the school list for when we normally have these conversations for a recruiting talk with a family and a player, one of the first things that we will do is have the player make a school list. We would have them have 3 or 4 reach schools, which would be a dream to go to for them. 3 or 4 settle schools, that would be a settle. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Safety.
No, well, then safety would be the last 3.
Target. Yeah. Target's the middle.
Target's the middle. Target would be the middle, and then a safety would be the last 3 or 4. That sometimes we have people make a volleyball list and an academic list. Sometimes they go hand in hand, and sometimes they're a little bit different. Looking at what it takes to get into schools like this, academically, and if your grades aren't there, then we have to go through the list a little bit and narrow some things down. If you're coming to us with a 2.9 GPA and you're looking at Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, we're probably going to say, we got to change the list a little bit. So a realistic list of where would be a dream for you to go, where would be a target for where you think that you can play, and where would be somewhere that you can compete at and contribute to. That would be the beginning of the school list of trying to narrow some things down, whether it be Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA schools.
Yep.
That have volleyball.
Yep. I think the other piece of the school list that we talk about is Arielle kind of said, like, you've got the volleyball list, you've got the schools that you could look at the last 5 national champions, right? In terms of what school won the men's national championship. And you put that on a spectrum from Division I down through Division III. And you can find you can get a balance of, all right, where does the school actually fall in terms of its competitiveness? And then you obviously there's a ton of school rankings on the academic side as well, that you can find those things very easily on College Review, Princeton Review, sites like that. The other thing that I think we usually discuss in terms of school lists is the things that you're looking for. It could be a specific major, right? Do you want to be an aerospace engineer, or do you want to be like Arielle and be a communications major? Nothing wrong with communications. Great major. Right. Those are the things that you can kind of start to balance out. I was a sport management major. That's what I wanted in a school, and was lucky enough to find a school that had that. And so that's one part. You could be a guy like, I want to stay in California, right? I want to be by the beach, or I want to be on the West Coast, and that's hugely important. And a lot of guys tell us that, which is fine, and that's great. That narrows down your school list real simply. Yeah. It also limits your volleyball options, which is fine, as long as you understand kind of where that looks. If you're open to more, great. What else kind of goes into that decision-making process?
Do you want a big football school? Do you want a small school with a small class size? There's so many options with the culture of what a college holds, that narrowing down what's important to you, and there are really no bad answers. It really is what is important to you in your experience for 4 years out of school, and kind of going through that pro and con list of what makes sense for you. So that definitely goes into the school list of like, what do you, the location, the grade, the majors that they have, the type of atmosphere that is there. Do you want to be close to the beach? Do you want to be up in the mountains? Do you want to be wherever it is?
Yeah. And the school list is not, it's a living document. As you go through this process, stuff will change. You'll have like a
Totally.
bad interaction with a school and it'll be like, no
No
way,
way.
I don't want to play for that school. Or, you go through the process and they give you a no and you're like, okay, cross that school off the list.
Mhm.
If that's, if what you're looking for is volleyball and they give you a no, you can remove it. You can move to the next thing. You can add another school in. All of those things will be constantly kind of in flux and changing. And I think it comes back to step one. It goes back to counsel, right? You continue to have those conversations with counsel. You talk to your club directors, you talk to your coaches. Hey, what schools do you think I might be a good fit for? Or where do you see me kind of fitting in? Do you think I could play Division 1? Do you think I could play Division 3? Where should I be looking at? Where should I try and be focusing my time and my energy? And your counsel can help kind of fill that list out and add things and subtract things of, hey, I heard X and Y about this coach and this program, and here's what we know in terms of our most recent dealings of having a player go through the process with that school. All of those things come into play, and so that's something that constantly gets updated. But once you have that list and you have kind of your initial rundown of schools, the next step is reaching out to them, and that's the fourth step, which is contact. And so I will leave that one to Arielle, since she is the one who is usually the editor of emails. So I'll let her kind of take that place.
So contacting a school, we have a template up on our website, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have looked at what that template looks like. That is kind of just a basis on what that first email should look like. That being said, if everybody even on this call sent that to the same school, obviously there would be you need to make some changes to that template and make sure that you're standing out. Um, but with that email, I mean, I have offered to everybody I've kind of come into contact with that if you're a part of Beta Bay Volleyball Club, I'm happy to look over an email for you. I'm happy to look over it for you if you want to take the time to email and write something so that college coaches will see it and present yourself in the right way. I'm happy to take a look at it and let you know my thoughts on it. Um, some are better than others. I don't think that these emails need to be super long. These coaches and even the videos that you attach to them, they do not need to be super long. They don't need to be edited with music. And I know my dad has been a coach for a very long time and used to get recruiting videos with girls flying in on a private plane, walking out saying, "Hi, my name is Sally, and this is my recruiting video." Like these videos can get crazy. You don't need to do that. These coaches are going to watch them for about 30 seconds. And they're going to look, they're going to see the way you move, they're going to see the way you jump, they're going to see what you look like, and they're going to make a judgment on you based off of that. So attaching video is great, and it is something to do. But it doesn't need to be, you don't need to overthink it. You are who you are, put your best stuff together and give it a little bit, and full game footage is great as well. They most likely will be coming. We're at a lot of events and tournaments, so they'll most likely be coming to watch. But that's the best thing that you can say is, this is who I am. This is what my experiences with the sport has been, and this is where I'm going to be, and I really want to be a part of your program. How badly you want to be a part of these programs. There are so many kids out there that want to be a part of it, and I would advise for you to sell yourself like, I will do whatever it takes to become a part of blah 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 school. I think that is the best way to say, I will sweep the floors after practice if you could give me a shot on that team. I think a lot of coaches want to hear that.
I've got one part.
Yeah.
I think it's important for you guys also to understand in terms of when you reach out to a school, like what's the mechanics behind behind the curtain of college volleyball. And usually the way it works is most Division I schools for sure are going to be running a program called University Athlete, which is a recruiting database. Okay. So anytime someone emails, if Matt Houlihan emails UC Irvine and says, "Hi, I'm Matt. I'm going to be at the SoCal Cup tournament on this weekend. Here's my footage. I play for Beta Bay 18 once." Okay. Anytime an email is sent, usually assistant coaches' jobs are they're going to be logging those contacts into their recruitment database. So it's basically, it's Salesforce for college volleyball. They're going to add your name in, and what happens is your name is synced to your profile that you have purchased through USA Volleyball and that we have to upload onto the tournament rosters. So it's on AAS or Time to Sign or Sport Wrench, whatever it's on. They're pulling all the information. They're taking your name, and then when they pull your name at the actual tournament they're at, it will tell them what court you're on and when. And so then they have a list of everyone who's contacted them, and college coaches can then create a schedule before they even get to the tournament of when and where they need to be in order to go see the people who have reached out to them. And that's usually something they're going to do. Most schools, if you've reached out, a coach will probably come and watch. They're going to maybe come by for like a minute, maybe come by for 10. Maybe they find someone that's their friend and they sit down and chat at your court and they're watching a little bit. That's kind of just how it works. So they're going to try and get eyeballs on, and then they can do some rating and add some notes on your player profile to kind of see where you're at. And so they can track players throughout a number of years. That's kind of the behind the scenes look at how they do things. So reaching out is great, right? Reaching out means that your name gets added into the system. It means that your name most likely gets added to the schedule at some point. If you're in that, probably, I know for 16s and 17s, that's big. Some schools will for sure be down for 15s as well, to be checking that out. If you're a sophomore on 15s, obviously that's a good piece as well for them to know, because then they add you onto their schedule and add you onto that list. So reaching out is a very good thing for you to be doing, because it gets you into that pipeline for college coaches as well.
Talking about University Athlete, that is the system that they use for their, I don't believe you have to create your own profile, or do you, for University Athlete?
For University Athlete,
University Athlete
will pull all the information that's on your USAV profile. And the link that I put into the chat, there will be a series of resources in there. One of them is the place where you can set up your own University Athlete profile. And I highly recommend lowest hanging fruit for any guy on this recruitment call right now is to set up your University Athlete profile and keep it up to date. Height, vertical jump, email address, and all the basic info. Because if you didn't put all of that in when you're setting up your USA volleyball profile, then it's not being pulled into their system, and so they don't have that information.
They will contact us and ask for it. That happens daily, that they contact and ask for the information, but it's just an easy way to make it easy for them.
Yeah. University Athlete also it's not just for Division I. It's for any school can purchase it. It's just it's a subscription. So it just depends on which, some of the lower Division IIIs might not have it in their budget to do it and kind of use the old pen and paper or Google Sheets or whatever it may be. But I've seen it's a pretty standard feature for most schools as they're doing recruitment.
I personally would not purchase any recruiting services from anybody. NCSA, any of these recruiting services are the boys and men's volleyball world is so small that the best way to get recruited is to make personal connections with people and to email and to put yourself out there and to tell us that you want to go play somewhere. So we have a question right here about a bench player, which I'd love to answer. If you are a bench player, how do you sell yourself? I had a player on my team who came to our club when he was 15 years old, and he never got on the court, right? He subbed himself in one time. Yeah, he subbed himself in one time.
But you can call him Will Perry.
I can call him Will Perry. Will Perry barely played wanted to be a part of this program so badly, and would do anything to just be a part of what we were doing. He told me when he was 15 years old that he wanted to go and play Division III volleyball at a school in Boston. His middle name was Fenway, and he just knew exactly where he wanted to be. He told me that when he was 15 years old, and it he was on in our group and with our club, and I knew from the moment he was 15 years old, we're getting this kid to go and play Division III volleyball in Boston. Um, there are what, 5 million Division III volleyball schools in Boston for some reason. So it was nice that we had that option. But once Endicott came into the picture, they emailed me and asked me about Will, and he barely had any game footage. He really just had practice footage. Putting a practice film together is just as good as putting game film together. It's the same thing. Being the best teammate that you can be will sell yourself to become a part of a program. Those coaches came to me and said, "Tell me about this kid." And I said, "He is the best kid that you could take into your program. And I promise you," and I gave them an honest opinion, "I promise you, he'll change your life if you let him become a part of your life." And they emailed me that next year later and said, "You were absolutely correct." So there is a way for you to get recruited if you know what you want and you know that volleyball is something that you want to pursue. Use your personal connections, use us, and use as much as you can to try and get that for yourself, because I think that there is definitely a way, even if you're not seeing the court all the time. You do not have to be a starter on your team to go and play Division I, II, or III volleyball.
Perfect. We'll open it up for a full Q&A at the end here. So I
Yep.
just want to
Sorry,
finish off.
I just wanted to answer
I know
that.
it was a good question. It was a good question.
Any time to plug Will Perry,
Yeah.
I'll totally do it.
You guys feel free to add questions into the chat. I'll also open it up to just speak at the end also. But the last step is the follow-up portion. And so for follow-up, it's essentially going back to that timing, right? How often is the cadence of our communication? It's going through these steps all over again, right? You have your counsel, you're talking to them, you're getting some insight about who to add onto the school list, about who or where they think you may fit and where you think you may fit along the spectrum of Division I all the way to collegiate club. You're thinking about your timing, right? Where are you at in the process? How far along are you, or which grade you are in? You've got your school list that you're constantly updating and working through. Are you taking anyone off? Are you adding anyone on? Anyone who's on your school list should be on your contact list, right? That you're going through that cadence of, all right, it's before a big tournament. I need to make sure I'm reaching out the week before saying, that we're going to be there. And your most recent unofficial transcript, your test scores, if you've got them, and maybe the most recent video, and then following up after the tournament with your best clips, your highlight video, or your best just full match. And then you just kind of keep that cycle going, right? You just try to keep working down the funnel. And as schools start to cross off the list, it gets a little bit smaller. And maybe you kind of really focus in on a couple schools who have been reaching back out to you and contacting you. And it just gets a little bit closer and a little bit closer until you finally reach that, end point where you get to make a decision, right? You've applied to the schools. Maybe you're trying to be a recruited walk-in. You need to get into the school on your own. And the coach says, we've got a spot for you, or you're lucky enough to be fully recruited and you get offered a scholarship. And there's a school that is offering you money to go play volleyball, which is a fantastic thing. And then you're able to make decisions from there. And this process just keeps going, right? It's just, you just keep working back through this flywheel type of event where you just try and get the momentum rolling. And once it starts to roll, it starts to, compound on itself. And so that's kind of the basic rundown of our blueprint for college recruiting. We did our college recruitment 101 class last year, and I loved doing it. So we're doing it again this year. And it's basically, it's going to be a month program where we get to work together. So anyone who's interested and wants to just take a deeper dive and get just a little bit more one-on-one, like, here's what we've got going on. Let's take some time and talk about what each of these processes really is and how to kind of work through it, how to bring your counsel together, how to have some of those tough conversations, and then really dive into the timing and the different, jargon that comes from college recruiting and how to kind of craft those emails and how to respond to college coaches and to be confident in yourself enough to to reach out and be okay when a coach doesn't respond to you, to send another email, 2 weeks later, and just kind of help through that cycle. So some of the things we do is we'll have our recruitment group me that's just going to be open for questions. Obviously sending emails, getting those things edited, and kind of working through some of the conversations is what we do. And that will actually start next Tuesday. And that's going to be a 4-week course, and it's $97. And we'll send out all the info for anyone who is interested in that. And of course, if you're not, it's totally fine. All of this information is out there. If you want to go out there and find it on your own and go dig through it, you can absolutely get all of this stuff figured out. And I applaud anyone that wants to do that. It is definitely something that shows that you're motivated and that you can make things happen. And so if there's any questions on that, feel free to ask. If there's any questions on the recruitment process, we've got about 20 minutes here that we can leave things open, and we'll do our best to answer anything in the chat and/or anything. If anyone wants to unmute themselves, they're more than welcome to do that as well. Let me try and pull up our chat again. I can stop sharing the screen. All right, let's see here. We got some questions that have come in.
Okay.
All right, we've covered the bench question player. Good. All right, too late for me to start college recruiting as a senior is what this question's coming in. The answer is no. Like Arielle said towards the beginning of this call, I committed and didn't know I was going to University of the Pacific, which is what this sign comes from our locker room. I didn't know I was going there until literally middle of May, my senior year. And so there are a lot of schools that are looking for guys. And it's just a matter of reaching out and being your own best advocate and communicating, specifically across the Division III level, where it has exploded. There has been probably 30 programs added each year for the last 5 years, right? So you're looking at a huge, huge base of the pyramid for college men's volleyball. Obviously Division I, very small, 40-ish schools. So a small top tier, but as you get further down that pyramid, there's a lot of programs out there. And there's a lot of great schools, high academic schools that have men's volleyball, where volleyball can help you get into the school if you're willing to reach out to that coach and, show your footage and be able to kind of communicate that you're interested and build that relationship. Let's see. Beta Bay alums connecting with interested Beta Bay players to learn about the process.
If you are interested in a certain school, please ask us, and we will get you connected with somebody who is at that school.
For sure.
If that's something that you're interested in talking with those people, they would, I'm sure any of our former players would be more than happy to do that.
That's also something we do in our course. Last year we had Colton Brooks, Will Perry for Division III. We had Alec Chambers, who did Collegiate Club. And we had, we had one other. We had Austin Buchanan at University of Hawaii They joined one of our weekly calls, and just were kind of there as resources, and guys were able to ask them questions about their process and what it's like playing college volleyball, right? That's another piece that I think comes up a lot in the conversations we have about recruiting with families is what does it take? What's it like? Am I capable of doing it? And the easy answer is it's like having a job, but it's volleyball.
Yep.
So if you really love volleyball, it's the best job in the world.
Yep. Height. Is college a possibility if you are
6 foot
or whatever your height is? Can you jump? Are you scoring points? Are you a libero? There's a lot of questions with the height issue. It depends. Height helps in volleyball. That is the only thing that height just helps with volleyball. It is not everything. It sometimes gets you in the door, and sometimes it gets you not there, but it just depends on the kid, and it depends on who it is. There are plenty of undersized people that have gone on and had major volleyball careers.
I was at the Long Beach State men's volleyball preseason tournament 2 weekends ago with Stanford, and of the 5 teams that were there, each one of them had a outside hitter, so Division I outside hitter that was below 5'10", right? And so obviously those guys could jump. Those guys had great ball control. They made minimal mistakes. They were great leaders. All of those other things come into play. Of course, as the saying goes, you can't teach height. There are a whole lot of other things that you can't teach as well that you have to be able to bring to the table to compete at a high level.
Contact information for coaches. It's on their website. If you go to Irvine's website for men's volleyball, they will have the coaches will have their email addresses.
I'm putting the link in there again. So the Beta Bay link is going to give you a direct link.
Private.
Oh, that went privately. Sorry. Direct link on our recruitment page to just it's literally Wikipedia of every men's college volleyball program. And you can just click the hyperlinks from there to their athletics page and just go to staff directory, and you're just going to grab, or even just under the staff page of men's volleyball. There's another question in here about, should you contact the head coach, the assistant coach? All of them is the answer.
Everybody you can,
And
the volunteer assistant, the whoever you can get your hands on an email to whatever, contact everybody.
Yeah.
Kids, parents, don't contact anybody. You will not get anything back if you're a parent reaching out to a coach on this stuff. Players, if you're a potential athlete, you are the one that will get a response.
A fun tidbit, good strategy tip for you guys right here. Whenever you send an email, if you're sending it to a program, don't CC the entire staff on one email. Send each coach a separate email, because when there's a whole CC'd group, most of the time everyone's like, someone else will do it.
Yeah.
They'll respond to it. Yeah. You send each of them an individual email,
they will respond.
More likely to get a response from them.
If you don't get a response, it could mean something, it could not mean something. It just depends. Sometimes you send us an email and we don't see it, and we didn't mean to not respond. Like it's life. You're trying to connect with people. Sometimes you'll get that response, sometimes you won't. Recruiting is a persistence game. You don't come off too strong. It's almost like a dating game. It's you don't come off too strong, you don't try it, but you try and form a relationship with people, and you see if they like you back. And you don't take it personally if you don't. You go move on to the next one, and you just try and figure it out with them.
Yep. Another couple questions here. Number one, if you're looking for the university athlete link to update your profile, it's also in that Beta Bay link I put in for recruiting. Just look for the university athlete profile button. Number two, if you are a sophomore and you reach out via email and you don't get a response, yes, that is because of NCAA rules. They can't respond to you until June 15th of your sophomore year summer. So rising into junior year is when college coaches can actually reach out to you. So yes, if you can send an email as a 7th grader, you just won't get a response, but they can still see the email. Nothing stops them from seeing the email come in. That's why we say, freshmen, 1 email, sophomores, after big or before big tournaments, just to get them to be able to come and look at you, hopefully.
The kids in Beta Bay that do commit to schools, we average probably between 6 and 8 kids per year that are going off and playing at a Division I school, right?
I'd probably say
5.
I'd probably say 4 to 7 would be the average.
It depends on the year. Yes, it is very competitive. There's no question. It's a very, very competitive thing. But a lot of kids in our club specifically we have so many high academic kids in this club that there are a lot of kids in this club that would have the opportunity to go play Division II or III volleyball somewhere if they wanted to. And they want to go to a school that has a football program or stay in California, or each kid has a different idea of what they want. Some want to stay close to home, and some have opportunities to go across the country to play, and they just don't want to go across the country. Some it's a money thing. Some it's there's so many different avenues here for college volleyball that it can't be just put into a box of this is how many people. It just depends on if it's right for one person, and what the opportunities are for them, what their personal situation is, and if it could be an option for them. Um, and Matt touched on it a little bit. Volleyball in college it sounds great. It sounds awesome. It is a full-time job. It is at least 20 hours a week of of a real job along with the school and along with the other stuff that goes into college. It is a real commitment, and it's not all this glory like the signing day looks like. It is a really hard thing. And so it's not for everybody. The club volleyball is a great experience, and it is super fun, and it is not as much of a commitment as college volleyball is. College volleyball is really hard. That's not to scare anybody. It's
Yeah.
great. Both of us did it. And we had great experiences doing, we still are in volleyball. But I would definitely say it's just not for everybody. So pursuing it and going through this process and not looking back and having any regrets on how hard you worked to try and get it, to pursue it, to see if it's something for you, I think is a great idea.
Yeah. Question about GPA and academic requirements. So specifically asking about highly academic schools in addition to the athletic requirements. So for the high academic schools, there's still going to be an admissions standard, right? You can't get into Stanford with a 2.7. Just won't happen regardless if you can side out at the highest clip
Yeah,
and you
it's
have
just
a
not gonna
70-inch
happen.
vertical. There's still going to be the admission standards. Now, many schools have a sliding scale for athletics in terms of, maybe if your test scores are a little bit higher and your GPA is lower, then they can kind of work some things around. But there's definitely a floor that you can't go underneath. And it's going to be a little bit looser than your regular admission standard, just for the athletics portion of things. But for the most part,
You
it's
have to
not
meet a
low.
standard. Mhm.
I know for the guys going to Stanford, it's almost all of them are above a 4.0.
Mhm.
Right. So they're no slouches in the classroom. They are very good volleyball players as well, but they have to have that academic standard. For the Ivy League schools, there's no scholarships for Ivy Leagues, and so it's not about money per se. So for the Ivy Leagues, it's what they call a chip on an application that kind of just puts them to the front of the line that says, like, this is a priority application for the men's volleyball program. And if he meets the standards, we would like very much so for this person to get it.
And sometimes they get a couple, sometimes they get more. So it depends on the school. It depends on the coach, depends on the relationship they have with their administration. It is a very different scenario at each school. Same with D3 schools. They have a relationship with their administration where they can go in and they can say, these are the volleyball players and this is who I want, and they get in. It just depends on the school. It
Yep.
depends on their relationship with the administration.
Yep. There's a question about, do you have to commit to playing for 4 years?
That's a
No.
tough,
Yeah.
tough question.
But it's the reason I actually go to that one next is that's talking with Coach Swiesky, Coach Brian from Harvard, Stanford coaches. There is always a
Fear of that.
concern,
Yeah.
right? When you have a high academic school, where you can help a kid get in and kind of get them to the front of the line, that they'll quit the year after. And so that's why those schools have a very long vetting process, is because they can't afford to have that. And so they're looking for kids who are going to be seeing it through for the entirety of them being there. Does it always happen? No. There's of course kids that, they life happens and they struggle, and they realize that they're having a really hard time and they need to stop. That happens. And so that's the coach's job, to definitely try and kind of get that understanding of where that player is at. Let's see. Do D3 schools have that ability
That's
as well?
I kind of addressed that a little
Yeah.
bit.
And yes,
Depends on the school.
Depends on the school.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yes, most of the athletic programs have some kind of sway, some kind of agreement, at least in terms of getting kids into the school to be a part of their university, that there's going to be some differences in terms of the standards of admission. for athletes. A lot of the Division III schools that have had men's volleyball are going to be kind of the smaller liberal arts schools, and they'll use men's sports as a way to get more men on campus. I know when I was going to Pacific, I was like, it's got sport management, it's got Division I volleyball, and the ratio of guys to girls is 60-40. This sounds great to me. I really like this school. And so a lot of schools will add men's volleyball to bring in more men onto the campus.
How do you get recruited as a sophomore? You hit the ball really, really hard.
Yeah, I think this was a follow-up question. So off of the idea of if you can reach out to coaches, but they can't respond to you as a sophomore, how do you get recruited? The answer is you be seen.
Yeah.
And so you can send the email to get added into their university athlete profile so that they'll add you onto the schedule to go watch you. They can watch anyone play. They could, I'll talk to Coach Niffin. He'll come and watch our 12s play just because he loves watching the 12s because they're so entertaining.
The people are watching our 14s too. They're watching to see what's going on and what's coming up.
So coaches will go around, and that's their job during this is to be evaluating talent and to be evaluating who's out there and what's available, and to make sure they know who they may be interested in. It's this kind of the same question of how do those coaches know who to contact on June 15th of their junior year? It's the kids they've been watching for a year and a half that they're like, that kid's the first kid I'm calling at midnight on June 15th. So that's kind of that rundown.
If you don't live in the United States.
Good question. We are a San Jose club. So I know there's international students across the United States. We have one international student from Canada in Stanford. I know his recruitment process was hard. It was hard getting him in to the school.
But it depends on the school. If it's a school with a big international studies program and they love having international students there, that's an easier school to get into. It just depends on the school. It depends on the high academics. The Harvard, Princeton, Stanford is a different story. But for everybody else, it just depends. What else? Anything else?
It's the majority
Any
question.
last question?
Yeah, we got about 3 minutes left. So if there's any last questions, we can help it out. We're going to send a follow-up of this recording as well, as long as the info on the course that's coming up for anyone who is interested in that. But last question here looks like, what's the difference between D1 and D3s in terms of time?
Time commitment.
This was a great one that Will Perry actually talked about during last year's college recruitment course. The biggest difference for Division III is not so much the amount of time that you're practicing. They'll practice 20 hours a week as well. Mm-hmm. It's really the travel. The D3s are going to be very regional in terms of the teams that they're competing against. So you're not flying across the country. You're not flying down to something. You're not doing a 2-hour flight. You're playing teams that's like hop in the van and we'll be at the school in 30 minutes. It's more like your high school type of experience in terms of that competitive travel. The end of the season national championship, yes, there's some travel involved there, but a lot less. It's a lot less rigid and stringent on the time commitment.
Let me answer this last one. Do you have to apply to the school before being recruited? No, you don't. The recruiting process can start at any point in time. If you go back to it, it's relationship based. If you are applying to schools and you do get into a school, it is great to be able to email a coach and say, hey, I'm already in your school. I want to be on your team. It's a little bit easier of a process if that's the case. You're going to be a student there. You're going to be going there. It's a little bit easier. But that being said, if you're in your junior year and you haven't applied to the school yet, that's okay. It's that's when things kind of start, I guess, on the timeline. So you do not have to apply to the school before being recruited.
All right. Well, thank you guys for spending an hour with us on a Tuesday here. I hope we answered a lot of questions and gave you kind of a little bit more clarity, at least, about the recruitment process. Obviously, Beta Bay guys, we are around, and any questions come up, you let us know. We'll send out the info about the course if you want to dive deeper into this and get some more one-on-one guidance with it. But we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon. We'll send out the recording of this email in the next probably. Give me till tomorrow. I need to go to bed. Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.